To the members of the panel and to my co-moderator, Mrs. Henry Wilson. We have received several questions from our viewers online. I'll do my best to summarize the issues and to present the questions to the various panelists. Let's start with the Ministry of Education, Dr. Grace McLean. There are two questions that have been raised, one having to do with the results of the assessment that were done in the first 3 weeks, whether there are intentions or plans to make adjustments to the curriculum given what we have been learning during this situation, during this pandemic. And connecting those two as one question, the other question is, what are the plans? You've mentioned intentions to utilize space in terms of temporary holding areas like tents. What are the medium to long-term plans for retrofitting the infrastructure of our schools?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Thompson. In response to the first question, just to clarify, the 3 weeks of assessment will take place from September 7th and onward. And we are developing structured assessment instruments that will be administered at all levels from early childhood to the end of secondary. It is our intention to work with our teachers to identify the gaps, and the ministry has perfected that art as it relates to assessment, so we have the framework to get that done. Following this review of the assessment, down to perhaps even the subtasks, then we will now have discussion with our curriculum officers to review the curriculum, our national standard curriculum, which we introduced about 3-4 years ago. And we will move towards making adjustments to the curriculum if it is necessary. We will also consider the addition of let's say an hour or so to the school day if our administrators are in agreement, and in some cases there may be a narrowing of the holiday period again if our administrators are in agreement. So effectively there are some localized decisions that will be made regarding the completion of the curriculum. Based on how the national standards curriculum is set up, which is really a progressive or that is used right through to grade 9. Whatever would have been adjusted for the new school year coming up, the students will be able to catch up in subsequent years. We will, however, pay special attention to those students from grade 6 who will be moving into grade 7, and special attention to those students from grade 9 who will be moving into grade 10. So we are expecting that there will be some adjustments based on the review and the necessary interventions accordingly. Dr. Thompson, we are in the process of putting in place a national sector committee to look at the medium to long-term plans for education from a strategic perspective. We are currently advancing our proposal to Cabinet for their approval. Once they have approved, then the public will be made aware, and we are expecting that team to be able now to take us forward in terms of the medium-term and long-term plans. So importantly, just to indicate that the plans that we are making now really are to facilitate the opening in September.
Thank you very much, Dr. McLean. I want to turn the next question to Mrs. Lynch. A number of persons have indicated their support for the notion that psychosocial support is going to be critical for our students and our teachers. One question is, how do we integrate social and emotional wellness alongside and in the curriculum to ensure that our students and our teachers are able to deal more resolutely and effectively with challenges of this kind?
Thank you, Dr. Thompson, and thank you for that question. There are several ways we can do this. I think at this time, one of the most immediate ways we can look to do that is through how we seek to ensure that our classrooms are healing classrooms. And when I say that, the kinds of relationships we're building. So we know that the physical classroom may look very different, but as we seek to really help with psychosocial, however that classroom looks, building that relationship between the adults that are there and the students are there, whether that is virtually or just physically, that is going to be important aspect of helping children to feel safe and a sense of predictability, which we know is crucial for emotional well-being, especially on the heels of a trauma. The next thing that may be helpful, which is not a direct way, but an indirect way of doing this, is ensuring that as we do our lessons, we provide opportunities for students to express themselves. So this may mean that as we are doing English, we look at topics that have to do about how are we feeling about this? How did the character feel? What happened? What might you feel? Have you had experiences like this where you felt that? What was helpful? And really drawing on what we have within our region, which is a rich history in storytelling. I think storytelling is one of the powerful means of healing. So we're looking at building a healing classroom, providing opportunities, and not just storytelling, but the arts. So using the arts to heal, and that can be done in any subject area that our students are in right now. And also partnering with parents. I think we really have to strengthen our resolve to reach even those parents who seem unreachable, and harness the power now of technology and the media to do so. Because I think many students will be returning with issues that we may not even be able to fathom yet. And in order to address them, we will need their caregivers on board, also knowing what they need to do at home. So I would say those would be some ways to begin. And also just then the intentional integration, teaching teachers, how do you integrate social and emotional learning within your curriculum? So having training sessions, webinars, perhaps over the summer, beginning to prepare teachers to look at how these skills, resilience, hope, compassion can be integrated, communication can be integrated in their various curriculum.
I want to turn quickly to Mr. Darin and ask if you could say a little bit more about the timeline for the rollout of the additional services to provide the infrastructure support to allow for more effective online delivery.
Sure. So we've actually launched the eHope School Network, and in fact, this entire forum is being broadcast live on that channel, as I said, across all multiple platforms. So it's also on on other networks such as Flow, such as Digicel, etc. And I think that's an important thing to understand. We don't believe that any single company or any single technology can solve all the issues of connectivity in the country, and therefore you need to utilize all platforms that are available. Secondly, we're rolling out the satellite internet, which is imminent. We've already done 3 schools, and you have to also understand that satellite is best suited for those locations where other technologies can't reach, and that's available now. We have equipment along the way, so we should have another 100 schools rolled out within another month. You can do probably 5 or 6 schools a day, and that's one of the advantages of satellite, because you're getting your internet connectivity from a satellite 22,000 miles away. Everywhere is connected. All you need is the satellite dish and the modem to connect it. So it's an immediate access, which is tremendous. Now, as Dr. McLean will tell you, internet is not inexpensive. It is the Ferrari of connectivity. And if we believe that we're going to be able to give every community, every student in Jamaica and the Caribbean a Ferrari, then I think that's a pipe dream. And so what you have to do is to build an infrastructure that caters to all types of socioeconomic conditions, all types of topographies, etc. So, which is why television is extremely important, digital television in particular, where you can broadcast multiple channels, you can have interactivity on digital broadcast channels, and every home virtually has a television set. One television set can even serve an entire, we call them tenement yards here in Jamaica. It serves a community in a sense, a family. So you cannot just only talk about primary and secondary and university education, but you can talk about vocational training. So we should have a vocational training television channels being broadcast live into people's homes. And that is what the digital revolution is all about. Every digital type of instrument can access any digital network. So it doesn't matter whether you have a television set, you can surf the internet. They're smart TVs. But if you don't have the internet, you can then surf broadcast networks. And so that is how you have to approach the solution. And every country around the world is doing it similarly. In Africa, there are massive digital broadcast networks that are being used for educational content. So we have a digital broadcast network that is rolled out here in Jamaica. Those channels are now accessible by everybody across the island, whether it be on their own cable network or on the Ready TV broadcast network.
Thank you very much. I must apologize to our other two presenters. Our time is running, and so I'm going to be handing over now to Dr. Chantal Moore to take us through the final processes of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thompson. Good day. I am one of the members of the CCEP operations team, and I have the responsibility and the pleasure of summarizing the lessons and insights from today's webinar, and to also say thank you and to wrap up a wonderful morning spent. So in terms of the lessons, the importance of adaptation and resilience for the transformation and sustainability of quality education to make it accessible to all. That's key. Secondly, collaboration and mobilization are essential to build back and or strengthen our work in education. And this is happening via myriad forms, and we see it happening in online, blended, community notice boards, couriering of lessons, and so on. And a third lesson for us has to do with the technological and educational gaps, which are now visible to more of us. And some gaps have widened because of the socioeconomic and other access issues. And we see how it is impacting gender and our children in particular. And therefore, these are pointing to changes that are needed at the national and regional levels, and the change has to focus more on creativity, lifelong learning, 21st century skills acquisition, technological access, and so on. And the final lesson this morning has to do with the psychosocial and emotional issues that are real and which need to be addressed in order to make our learners at all levels of the education system feel more secure and be more ready for learning to take place in classrooms. Coming out of the lessons, we want to highlight some of the insights. Quite a number of insights, but I will just zero in on possibly 3 of them. The first one, which Professor Weber spoke to, is the whole business of the difference between online and emergency remote teaching and learning. We should try not to confuse the two because they have implications for how we go further and forward with education. We want to make sure that when learners hear the word online, they're not thinking that it is equivalent to what happened during the emergency remote moment occasioned by COVID. Secondly, educational planning is key. COVID-19 caught some teachers and institutions quite flat-footed, unprepared for the pandemic. But we quickly responded, and we are recovering because of the lessons we learned personally, as well as what we learned from each other in professional spaces and webinars such as these. Now, a key insight that we mustn't undervalue or forget is the whole business of how teachers are showing great commitment to teaching. They're connecting classroom instruction and their care for their students. They're connecting all of this to parents. They're connecting it to the wider community, to the ministers and ministries of education, and beyond, to other stakeholders who have an interest in the business and the process of education. So parents, I'm sure, can attest that teachers are, in fact, to be valued. Now, how do we respond to the lessons and the insights that we have learned? One, pandemics are real, and they can surface at any time. COVID taught us that. Just in a swift moment, it came at us, and there are others that are likely to come in the future. Natural disasters are also and always looming. So how do we, within the Caribbean, plan for and build a resilient education system for our students? Let's look at some of our responses that were put forward by the panelists and our keynote speaker. One, we have to leverage resources to regain learning losses and to minimize inequities. A second response is to forge partnerships to facilitate training and the sharing of expert and expertise locally and regionally. Thirdly, we have to strive to equalize the quality of education across schools at all levels. And finally, as a response, the gathering of data. Look at the facts, look at the information as they surface, because the data, the facts, the information are going to be quite useful in shaping school developmental plans so that they are contextually relevant, they are flexible, and they are resilient. So coming out of the webinar for today, facilitated by the Caribbean Center for Educational Planning, we want to say that we are learning from COVID, all of us who participated in this. We recognize the imperatives. We are, in fact, grasping the opportunities, and we are seeking to build resilient education systems within the Caribbean. The webinar has been, to my estimation, very informative, robust, comprehensive, interesting, and timely. And because of the richness of this webinar, there are quite a number of individuals we have to say thank you to because of the work that they put into making it happen today. I want to thank the head of the CCEP, Dr. Keynote Thompson, and the steering committee members. We want to thank too our principal at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, Professor Dale Weber, and also the program specialist at UNESCO, Dr. Farrell Khan. The keynote speaker, Miss Cynthia Hobbs, we say a special thank you for sharing with us those highlights today. And for Ms. Montgomery, the CCEP administrator who introduced her, as well as Dr. Charlene Cole, who fielded the questions and answers, we thank you very much. We cannot forget nor fail to mention the panelists on both panels. The first panel, we had Mr. Owen Speed, Mr. Julian Monrose, Dr. Hyacinth Harris, Dr. Zoe Kincaid-Clark, and Mrs. Thatcher Luton, who spoke to the issue of experiences of teachers, students, and school management, and the moderators were Dr. Therese Ferguson and Dr. Verna Knight. For panel 2, we had Mr. Rafa Gordon, Ms. Dr. Grace McLean, Mrs. Nicole Lynch, Mr. Christopher Derrin, and Dr. Wayne Wesley, speaking to educational policy and support systems for greater inclusivity and sustainability. And most important, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot omit all the members of the audience who logged in and stayed with us longer than we had anticipated, but we couldn't log off earlier because the information was so necessary. right? So over 900 persons logged in and joined us today. And we just want to say thank you very much. A resounding applause to each of you who joined us and participated, and gave us the questions and all of those. Thank you very much. And we just want to invite Dr. Thompson to come now and tell us one last thing.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Moore. Thank you very much, Dr. Moore. Thanks again to everyone who joined us. It has been a very meaningful experience. We look forward to your comments. The presentation will be kept up on YouTube, so you can tell your friends and your professional colleagues and neighbors that they can go on and review the webinar. You who sat through it, you can go back and have access to it. I want to thank our friends, our hard-working professional colleagues here at the Mona Information and Technology Service here at Mona Campus for their superb work and support. They have made it possible for us to reach you. I want to thank Mr. Chris Daring for the initiative of making this webinar available on Flow, Digicel, and Ready TV. And you'll also be able to see it at your convenience when it is replayed on Mona TV. Thank you all. God bless.